When was the last time you watched cable TV? It's not a very common activity anymore for like a third of the people in America. But cable TV now is more of a place for commercials and reruns and the Hangover franchise. And for years, MTV has been the pioneer of this commercialization of cable TV. And for years has been the subject of jokes, criticism, and speculation on exactly why they're like this, on what caused such a once respected brand to be so bad and hated. But what if I told you that MTV is basically the blueprint for corporate content in the streaming era, and that there's more to ridiculousness than any of us ever knew? But before we get into it, here's a word from today's video sponsor. This video is sponsored by Fume. Breaking bad habits can be tough, but thanks to today's sponsor, Fume, there's an easier way to move on from unwanted habits. Fume looks at the problem a different way. Not every part of a bad habit is wrong. So what if you just took the bad out of the habit? Fume is an innovative, award-winning flavored air device that does just that. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. And it's not even vapor. Fume uses flavored air, and instead of harmful chemicals, it's all natural, delicious flavors. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and has movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing while breaking your habit. It's pretty satisfying. You might hear me clicking it as I'm doing this ad. I actually really like that part of it too. They didn't even need to add that, but they did. I wasn't sure what to expect from Fume. I was really surprised at how much I ended up enjoying the flavors. So each flavor is made with this little core, and you put it in your Fume. You know, I have a really bad soda habit, and orange vanilla is my favorite. Honestly, if I just want a sip of orange vanilla soda, hey, that's good enough for me. Quitting is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume can make it easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has served over 150,000 customers and has thousands of success stories. There's no reason one of them can't be you. Break up with destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com/EthanIsOnline or scan the QR code and use code EthanIsOnline to get 10% off when you try the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use code EthanIsOnline to save an additional 10% off of your order today. Thank you again so much to Fume for sponsoring this video and for your delicious orange vanilla flavored scents. In the past 10 years, we've seen a pretty rapid transition away from traditional TV channels to on-demand online streaming. And this has mostly felt pretty natural from the consumer side, albeit getting more and more confusing every year. But over that same period of time, media entities have been consolidating into larger and larger individual entities. Entities that are more interested in profiting from existed libraries of inherited content, licensed or dumped onto a proprietary streaming service, rather than using the IP and the studios they seem to insatiably acquire. Take MTV for example. MTV is owned by Paramount Global. They also own Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, Showtime, VH1, CBS, BET, CMT, Smithsonian Channel, TV Land, and a lot more. Bring out the chart, bring out the map. All of the content owned and produced by all of these channels, and more, is managed by three people. The Nickelodeon guy, the CBS guy, and Chris McCarthy. Remember him for later. And they all report to Bob Bakish, the CEO of Paramount Global, who makes $30 million a year. We'll talk about it more later, but Chris McCarthy is the CEO and president of Viacom CBS. I don't know why he needs to be both. Since 2019, Chris McCarthy has had control over MTV, VH1, Comedy Central, a bunch of other shit he doesn't care about, and Paramount Network, the TV channel that used to be Spike TV, but now makes Paramount original content. But truthfully, there's only one scripted series currently running at Paramount Network, Yellowstone. And we'll talk more about that later. But having so much responsibility being put in the hands of this guy, here, may have made things a little complicated for him, especially when the bottom line is clearly the most important factor. What we've seen running parallel to the consolidation of the media industry is downsizing in almost all aspects of the industry. Three people effectively oversee a third of the content consumed in America, including the news.
Messiness airs on MTV, and DJ Sixsmith caught up with the hosts.
What was most exciting about doing this project?
I think with this show, it's a lot more messy. It's called Messiness.
As people like Chris McCarthy climb corporate structure and seem to accumulate responsibilities, their position and salary become overinflated to such a ridiculous and unrealistic degree that the only way to seem even remotely competent is downsizing. This gigantic megacorporation worth billions is hemorrhaging money because of these people. And of course, the executives are never the ones paying the price. This could be a move to attract a bigger buyer for acquisition, and it wouldn't be new. Please buy our horrible company. Look, you could acquire the live-action Halo series. This is what's seen as smart business by the corporate class, because it's saving money, it's increasing profit. If you just feed people to the blender, you don't have to pay them anymore. Studios and corporations in general have made it very clear that they're willing to bet the house on generative AI in order to keep production costs as low as possible. And it's leading, again, to more layoffs. The more tools like AI that corporations have, the more opportunities they have to funnel the money they make from creative labor upwards and cutting off the working class in the process. These executives are not very public people. This fucking guy might as well be AI generated to me, but we can glean a lot from Chris McCarthy's bio on Paramount's official website. Known for his successful track record in transforming businesses and creating content that shapes pop culture, McCarthy was named president of MTV in October 2016 and quickly returned it to #1 with young audiences. They're very vague with McCarthy's accomplishments here. How many businesses has he transformed? He has only ever worked at Viacom. McCarthy credits his success to strong leaders and collaborative teams who embrace a culture of, quote, creativity drives everything we do, unquote. Having the top shows is pretty much the extent of Chris McCarthy's involvement. He has them. He temporarily owns them as a proxy for the conglomerate he works for. There is a weird perverseness to the comfortability he has claiming ownership over work he has no right to. Just because the company he works for financed it? Okay. The recipient of multiple Emmy Awards and a Peabody Award. By multiple, they mean 2. And he wasn't exactly the recipient. He accepted them alongside the actual cast and crew, just to be clear. This bio is either written by Chris himself, or he forced someone else to do it, and I don't know which is worse. Regardless, we can see this person's track record and gauge the level of corporate delusion he has, based on what he thinks is going on here. He admits himself he establishes creative-led cultures, so let the creatives lead, Chris. What are you doing here? Other than firing people. In an interview with Vulture magazine, McCarthy explains his corporate strategy after becoming the CEO of Paramount Media. Yeah, I haven't mentioned that yet. In 2022, he was promoted again, and his jurisdiction expanded over all of Showtime as well. Weirdly though, his LinkedIn and even corporate biography on the official Paramount website forgets to mention that. He's only overseeing like 40% of the company's output. Probably just slipped everyone's mind what the fuck he actually does. In this interview, McCarthy explains that Yellowstone, a show he gained jurisdiction over in 2019, was losing a lot of money on cable TV as a scripted drama series, which is kind of a late revelation for 2019 in my opinion. It was also losing a lot of money because of Kevin Costner's salary, which is also funny. Chris's plan was to move the air date from summer Wednesday to fall Sunday nights, and then canceled every fucking other scripted series that was being worked on at the time, and then fired a ton of people. Where did all this revenue come from? Wow! I shit you not, Chris McCarthy's strategy for Paramount Media is to only make Yellowstone, and focus on developing that into a franchise to maintain Paramount Plus as a viable streaming service. Well, he'll actually have Taylor Sheridan do it. Chris wants spin-offs of Yellowstone, as well as tonally similar content driven by Taylor Sheridan and his work, which, sure, that makes sense as a strategy. One thing works well, you might as well just never ever stop doing it. Sorry, I just hate the way these executive types pat themselves on the back while talking about stupid ideas they're betting all of the blood money they got from laying people off on. We learned how to make something that could appeal to everybody and all at once. That's a benefit of understanding mass culture. So while we're new to streaming, we're not new to hit making. When you think about The Challenge or Drag Race or The Shores or South Park or Yellowstone, those are big hits that are designed to appeal to the center of the country and the coast. That's very different than what a lot of other people have been doing in streaming. This stupid motherfucker did not make a single one of those shows. So you might see where I'm going with the corporate executive that loves to just do one thing over and over again, also happening to have jurisdiction. Chris McCarthy actually explains in this interview why Ridiculousness takes up so much of MTV's schedule. When was the last time you turned on the television and just leaned back and watched for hours on end? If you did, you're gonna get one of your favorite channels that delivers you your favorite type of show. One of the home shows they create on HGTV or The Housewives on Bravo. The people who are leaning back and watching linear television, that audience is older. They're on linear because they don't want it to change. And what they love more than anything on MTV is ridiculousness. Hard to say when that's the only thing on there. I don't know if Chris actually cares that much about how much people love Ridiculousness or not. Ridiculousness is one of those genius shows that is perfectly scientifically designed to get older, younger, right, left. It brings them into their instant happy place. Well, okay, I don't think they like it that much. Chris isn't very direct about why this is happening, but I feel like it's obvious that the turnaround is fast and it's probably cheap as shit to make. No writers, no audience, skeleton crew, have an intern find the clips on TikTok and call it a day. As cable TV is dying, network executives like Chris that have sat on their hands for a decade can now use that as an excuse for downsizing other studios that they inherit and canceling projects to focus on mediocre, overpriced streaming services, meaning they can dump their bloated libraries of content they didn't make onto platforms that cost basically nothing to maintain and charge whatever they want for the privilege of using it. And that money isn't just going into new projects. After all the cancellations and downsizing, where else is the money supposed to go other than pockets? In the same way Yellowstone is driven by one creative person being paid to do their talent at the whim of network executives, and the entire brand is relying on that success, MTV has already solidified this model. Rob Dyrdek has basically been the face of MTV since 2015. And while he was in plenty of MTV shows before that, the rerun machine that MTV has become is Rob's. He's the middleman between executives and the final product. And he'll probably do whatever the executives want because it's made him very wealthy so far. Chris McCarthy does not need to delegate oversight of content on MTV when Rob has already recorded 60% of what they're airing every day. No overhead, no crew, no big names in the cast, and they know it's profitable, so they only air that. Rob is trying to make the most out of his position too, and he clearly is. He's become a venture capitalist with multiple corporations under the brand Dyrdek Machine. Hey, check it out. With projects in skateboarding, food, water, shoes, supplements and pharmaceuticals, AI-powered business travel booking software, podcasting.
1 million hours is 114 years and 54 days. I'm gonna experience 1 million hours on this earth. You live in two different mindsets. I live in a mindset that I just keep getting healthier and happier, more balanced. Life is more effortless. My system, that is, my entire body is more efficient.
You always wanna constantly be working to get your mind to the highest level. Level 4.
He also started a production company called Super Jacket Productions, which produced 3 Ridiculousness spin-off shows. And these are real. Amazingness, Messiness, Adorableness, and Deliciousness, which for some reason I forgot to put on the board. I'm sorry. This is just pictures of Rob Dyrdek with all of his expensive watches. He wears this one a lot. This is a Richard Mille $317,000 watch. And the thing you'll notice about watch guys is they have a hard time not showing their watch off because that's kind of the whole point. Like, all right, obviously there's this one, right? I mean, what's this? Doesn't look very natural. This one's funny, just out with the wife, no big deal. This one, very natural, classic point. Nothing to see here. Rob Dyrdek's just a sassy guy who loves crossing his arms. He loves to pray. Rob Dyrdek loves to pray. He loves Jesus. Oh, he's a little cold in this one. He's shivering. Probably all that ice on his wrist. Much to think about is Rob Dyrdek. Man, I sure love my babies in a very directly at the camera kind of way, for the watch that is. I love my children. You'll even notice in promotional material, his classic point move. We kind of know what that's for. Oh, and this one, you know, he's just being polite. 2 of these were actually produced after Super Jacket was acquired by Thrill One Sports Media, a subsidiary of Juggernaut Capital Partners, a healthcare industry and pharmaceutical investment firm, but also apparently partially owned by Dyrdek Machine. Hey Rob, did you make a company and then sell it to yourself? This entire ecosystem exists because of Rob Dyrdek's wealth that he made in the process of taking over MTV. This entire chain of events completely spiraled as a result of layoffs and downsizing and corporate greed. These are clearly shows driven by profit-seeking executives just spamming concepts until they work. I'm gonna break down exactly what these 4 shows are. The Dyrdek Machine has to run on something, and that something is Ridiculousness.
Keep talking to me, bitch. Did she die?
It's basically America's Funniest Home Videos for 35-year-old millennials. Ridiculousness has aired for 13 years on MTV, and most of that time has been spent dominating live TV with reruns. Not that you'd be able to tell, because any episode from any season can be shown to you at any time, and you'd have a hard time telling when it was from. And that's on purpose. Doctors' offices and waiting rooms around the world rejoice, as Rob Dyrdek tells you the funniest part of the clip he saw on TikTok.
Or do you want to all the bank 3?
Okay.
Oh, man.
He's an adult now. He is clear. That man is stressing like he got real bills.
Man, as if it's like real money.
There honestly isn't that much to even say about Ridiculousness, which is kind of the problem, right? It's not really anything. Sometimes they have guests on, which really gives you an idea of how uncomfortable it must be to watch Rob dance around on his big computer laughing. Just kidding, they don't do the big computer anymore. Rob Dyrdek is your coworker in the break room cornering you to show you some shit he saw on his Twitter feed. Anyway, it sucks. Let's move on. Amazingness is a game show that aired in 2018 for one season.
Your mind's about to be blown. This is amazingness.
Rob again hosts with 3 other people. Crystal B, an LA radio host, Chef Eddie Wong, and Rob's cousin Chris. The 4 of them watch as contestants show off their talents, and Rob decides who he likes more and gets to move on to the next round. I'm serious, Rob is the only person who gets to choose a winner. The talents themselves range from impressive and interesting to confusing and stupid. The only thing ridiculousness about this show is that Rob is in it, and that each person competing is not referred to by their name or social media handle, but rather the name of their act, which is kind of usually like a name of a bit on Ridiculousness. The winner gets $10,000. Not a good show. Deliciousness began in 2020 as a holiday special for Ridiculousness, featuring food-themed internet fails, or sometimes just eating-themed.
Happy holidays, everyone. This year, my gift to you is an all-new show that celebrates all things eating and drinking, hosted by my friend Tiffany Thiessen. I hope you enjoy this special holiday edition of Deliciousness.
Hosted by Tiffany Thiessen from 90210 and cooking, also Angela from The Office, Timothy De La Ghetto from MTV, and Kel Mitchell for some reason. If there's anything he knows, it's burger. Deliciousness was actually picked up for 3 seasons and last aired in December of 2022. The 4 hosts mainly just shoot the shit for most of the show, and then they play a food clip.
Potato-ators. Yes.
You can't eat that now. It's not safe.
No. And she's in flip-flops.
Ooh, she could have lost a toe.
A potato.
They never really talk about each clip for that long, but also how could you? There's nothing to these clips. But the show is still missing a lot, including a live audience, which is really weird when you pay attention to it.
That bunny just wanted that gravy bowl. What is that?
Ooh. That's a...
Is that a ferret?
That's a ferret.
Oh,
stop it.
Get out my
Puppy.
food. That's right. That's right. Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
Yo.
They play laugh clips every few seconds because there isn't actually anyone in the studio watching, just like no one's watching in real life. And to be fair, this show started airing during COVID, but you'll notice that all of the Dyrdek shows after COVID have no live audiences at all, including the most recent 38th season of Ridiculousness.
Oh God. Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Definitely the same DNA.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know what the objective was, but it looks like they both lost. We'll be right back for more Ridiculousness.
Messiness is hosted by Snooki from the Jersey Shore and first aired in 2021. In this spinoff, the hosts watch messy-type fail videos and talk about messy moments in their lives. With Tori Spelling from 90210, Adam Rippon from Figure Skating, Teddy Ray from Wildin' Out. I actually think this show is pretty good. The cast clearly likes each other, and I don't even like this show just as a Dyrdek Machine show. I like this show on its own.
I'm just proud to know that my homies is getting it in.
Yeah.
Like, just let me, like, okay, I got it
They
in.
usually
That's
slip
what's up.
out.
That was very nasty and freaky.
And I think more than anything, the most important factor that made me like it was how honest it was. It makes me feel like this is what the executives at Paramount think all of the shows are like. Adorableness is by far the most sad of all of these shows. It's also the most disconnected.
Everybody, I'm James Davis, and like a lot of you, I spent most of 2020 holed up, crying on my couch. So I thought what the world needs to see right now, something adorable.
They're in some fucking house? The show is like a fake show you'd see in a movie. Adorableness is hosted by comedian James Davis, Allison Hannigan from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Ross Matthews from Drag Race, and comedian Dolce Sloan from The Daily Show. They watch funny animal clips and have a nice laugh together.
I feel like that's my poker face. Right? Yeah, when you're lying.
And there is more chemistry here than anyone has with Rob on his show, but it's also still just about nothing. At least Messiness, it has something to do with the people talking about it, so they have things to say about the clips. This is just animal videos. The show reminds me a lot of this obscure pet show from 2005 called The Planet's Funniest Animals. It's actually hosted by Keegan-Michael Key.
Ever since that incident at the Shark Tank, I'm not allowed to carry my niece anymore.
Here's some animals who have better grips than I have.
It gets better, Keegan, don't worry. I don't have much to say about Adorableness. It feels just as cynical as Ridiculousness, but it's only about animals. It also only got one season.
No. Oh my God, he's a cockapoodle poo.
All of these shows are made by Super Jacket Productions, Rob Dyrdek's production company. And they all ran around the same time, with only Ridiculousness still running to this day. My theory is that MTV, Paramount, Global, CBS, Viacom, Plus, Hulu was throwing anything they could at the wall and seeing what made money, using a model we've seen in this industry before. Actually, the same franchise model that Chris McCarthy is pushing for Yellowstone. The Dick Wolf model. This is Dick Wolf, founder of the production company Wolf Entertainment, and one of the most prolific TV producers of all time. He's responsible for Law & Order SVU, Law & Order Organized Crime, FBI, FBI International, FBI Most Wanted, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med. These are genuinely some of the most viewed shows in America, specifically these ones. Wolf Productions is clearly able to put out these projects at a high volume and for low cost, excluding the paying the actors part. And while Law & Order and pretty much everything else Dick Wolf makes is pro-police propaganda, at least it is a show. But this model does allow executives to continue cost cutting because they're putting all of their money on one individual purpose for the purposes of establishing a franchise. And this is something that is happening in every part of entertainment. But while this bloat continues, the output is slower and worse. And these networks are only able to commit to one idea at a time because the president of Fox, Disney, Star Wars, Simpsons, Nintendo can only oversee a few things at a time. He only makes $30 million a year. He can't be expected to work that hard. Capitalism in this situation has an obligation to hoard intellectual property and the wealth generated by it. The acquisitions at the level we've seen in the last few years should not have been allowed legally. And this country is long overdue for swift and deliberate regulation and trust busting for these tax shelters with Mickey Mouse ears on them. And I'm sure it'll happen. Almost like the MCU, this is the inevitable result of entertainment being a business rather than making money from the art itself. And this isn't happening at the whim of anyone but the random business graduates gawking at arbitrary statistics with no sense of what's happening or what belongs to them in reality. Cable is not crumbling, it's rotting and stagnating due to the inaction of top-heavy media organizations that have no interest in anything other than shifting money from one place to another, and maybe a piece of entertainment falls out on accident in the process, or that they just delete it for tax purposes. I don't think the downfall of cable TV is as natural of an evolution in media as the industry and the media would have us believe. I think it's a warning flag for how these massive media conglomerates are actively seeking the most profitable kind of content, not in terms of success, but in terms of how cheaply and quickly it can be produced. And they demonstrably will not even try to adapt when the tides change. Anyway, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!